When the first Boeing 737 rolled down the Renton runway on April 9, 1967, its stubby wings and low stance looked almost modest beside the glamorous 707. Yet the baby Boeing possessed a superpower: adaptability. Over the next 4 decades, it stretched, re-engined, and upgraded its cockpit until one took off somewhere in the world every 5 seconds. Airlines loved it for single-type fleets. Pilots loved it because a new variant still felt like an old friend. By 2010, the 737 family had logged more than 6 billion passengers, nearly the population of Earth. But success breeds competition. Across the Atlantic, Airbus unveiled the fuel-sipping A320neo, poaching Boeing's biggest customers with promises of 15% savings. Suddenly, the venerable 737 risked obsolescence. Executives faced a crossroads: design an all-new airplane that would take a decade, or squeeze new engines onto the trusted frame and hold market share now. They chose speed. The decision would propel the 737 into the 21st century, and straight toward its darkest hour. Boeing branded its reborn jet the 737 MAX. Maximum efficiency, maximum commonality. The gargantuan LEAP 1B engines offered double-digit fuel savings, but were so wide they wouldn't clear the ground. Engineers mounted them higher and farther forward, nudging the aircraft's balance upward. In certain high-angle climbs, the nose could now pitch too high, flirting with stall. Rather than redesign wings and landing gear, Boeing wrote a line of code. MCAS, the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, would nudge the nose down automatically if a single angle of attack sensor read too high. The company told regulators MCAS was benign, rarely active, and pilots could treat the MAX like any earlier 737, no simulator necessary. Marketing teams promised airlines minimum training costs. Sales surged past 5,000 orders in record time. A Seattle engineer would later write in an email, "This airplane is designed by clowns, who are in turn supervised by monkeys." At the time, nobody outside a handful of cubicles read his warning. On January 29, 2016, the first MAX lifted off into a cold Washington sky, streamed live to customers hungry for lower fuel bills. Malindo Air flew the maiden commercial service from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore on May 22, 2017. Passengers tweeted selfies under the distinctive split-tip winglets. Within a year, Southwest American and Ryanair were boarding tens of thousands daily. Boeing erected a new mural outside Renton, building the future, delivering now. Inside, assembly lines ran at record tempo, 52 jets a month. Certification papers described MCAS in 3 brief paragraphs. Most pilots never heard the acronym. Some airlines received an optional 1-hour iPad lesson, others a single-page bulletin. Wall Street anointed the MAX the fastest-selling jet in history, adding $30 billion to Boeing's market cap. From the control tower, the future looked bright, its horizon lined with winglets and balance sheets printed in green. Dawn October 29, 2018. Lion Air Flight 610 climbed away from Jakarta's runway, carrying 189 people. Within 2 minutes, the stick shaker rattled, falsely sensing a stall. MCAS triggered, shoving the nose down. Captain Bhavya Suneja yanked back, fighting a yo-yo of plunges and climbs as warning chimes clashed in the cockpit. Airspeed and altitude tapes disagreed by hundreds of feet. One faulty sensor had hijacked the jet. In 11 terrifying minutes, the crew cycled manual trim 26 times. At 0632, the MAX struck the Java Sea at 450 knots, obliterating fuselage and lives alike. Indonesian investigators recovered a maintenance log noting the same problem the night before. A different crew had survived by cutting electric trim power. Knowledge never relayed down the chain. Boeing issued a bulletin reminding pilots how to disable MCAS, but insisted the jet remained as safe as any airplane that has ever flown. Inside airline forums, whispers of distrust began to circulate like unseen turbulence. March 10, 2019, Addis Ababa. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 rocketed off runway 07R at 08:38 a.m. Seconds later, the stick shaker erupted. Again, a single sensor misreading. MCAS drove the nose down. Captain Yared Getachew and First Officer Ahmed Noor fought back with all 190 centimeters of trim wheel, engines roaring at takeoff power. Air traffic control heard the crew's calm voice turn urgent. Pitch up, pitch up. Altitude yo-yoed between 8,600 and 8,100 feet. At 0844, the jet hit a farmer's field at nearly Mach 0.5, gouging a crater 30 meters wide. All 157 aboard perished. Witnesses smelled burning earth and jet fuel for days. 2 crashes in 5 months, both new Maxes, both after erratic altitude readings, shattered confidence. Aviation was supposed to learn from every accident. Here it seemed to repeat itself like a bad line of code. China grounded its MAX fleet within 24 hours. Europe followed. On March 13, 2019, the FAA, last to yield, parked all 387 delivered jets. Airlines shuffled schedules, storing wing-tipped birds in Arizona deserts and Canadian snowfields. Inside Boeing's Chicago HQ, crisis rooms buzzed 24/7. Engineers rewrote MCAS to accept 2 sensors, add limits, and illuminate a new AOA disagree light. Congressional hearings projected emails onto giant screens. This airplane is fundamentally unsafe. Families held photos of lost loved ones, tears glinting under TV lights. Boeing froze dividends, fired its CEO, and bled $20 billion in direct costs. For the first time in aviation history, a best-selling jet sat silent worldwide, its reputation marooned on tarmac. After 20 months, hundreds of test flights, and 1,350 pages of documentation, the FAA rescinded the grounding on November 18, 2020. Pilots now trained in simulators on runaway trim scenarios and memorized a new checklist. Stab trim cutout, confirm cut. American Airlines flew the first U.S. passenger service on December 29th. Cabin lights set to soft blue as media streamed live telemetry. Surveys showed wary travelers Googling seat maps to avoid that plane, yet orders slowly resumed. By 2022, the MAX completed over 1 million revenue flights without incident. Then in January 2024, an Alaska Airlines MAX 9 lost a door plug panel at 16,000 feet. No fatalities, but oxygen masks and déjà vu flooded social feeds. Regulators opened fresh probes, reminding the world that trust burns down faster than it rebuilds. In 2025, the MAXI is projected to carry 200 million passengers, yet every flight deck checklist bears scars of 2 crashed flights. MCAS now cross-checks dual sensors. Synthetic airspeed systems overlay data streams. Pilots drill runaway trim in full-motion sims. Boeing reorganized its engineering chain, returning final authority from accountants to aeronautical designers. The FAA added systemic oversight offices and hired more engineers than in any previous decade. Universities teach the MAX saga beside Tenerife and Air France 447, a case study where software tried to paper over physics and schedule overrode signal. Innovation, the lesson reads, must partner with disclosure, and safety cannot be optional equipment. On a clear June morning at Renton, a veteran captain taxis a new MAX toward takeoff. He pats the yoke, a ritual of respect, and thinks of 346 names etched on a granite memorial in Seattle's Museum of Flight. As the jet accelerates, he recites the quiet vow now shared by thousands. Never again, not on my watch.